Welcome to my channel. Try to hear the latest story.
I pulled into the circular driveway of my mother's sprawling estate, expecting to walk through those familiar mahogany doors as family. Instead, my stepfather Marcus intercepted me at the entrance, holding a cheap polyester vest that reeked of mothballs. His cold smile told me everything I needed to know before he spoke a single word. "Evening, Jet. Change of plans tonight." Marcus announced, his voice dripping with false authority. "We need someone reliable to handle valet services for Barbara's distinguished guests." My younger half-brother Derek materialized beside him, practically glowing with malicious satisfaction. The smirk spreading across his face made my stomach clench with dread and humiliation. "The valet suits you perfectly, Jet." Derek sneered, his voice carrying just loud enough for nearby guests to overhear our exchange. "Finally found your true calling in life." The polyester vest felt like a straitjacket as I forced my arms through the sleeves. 3 months ago, I was running board meetings for my tech startup. Tonight, I was reduced to parking cars for people who used to seek my business advice. The irony tasted bitter as copper pennies. Derek handed me a plastic clipboard with chicken scratch writing that barely passed for organization. His fingers lingered on the board longer than necessary, ensuring maximum contact with my humiliation. Every gesture screamed triumph. "Make sure you jog when retrieving vehicles," Derek instructed with theatrical authority. "These people expect prompt service from their help." My childhood friends began arriving in luxury sedans and sports cars that cost more than most people's annual salaries. Jason Chen stepped out of his gleaming BMW, adjusting his Italian silk tie, before recognizing me in the ridiculous vest. His expression shifted from friendly recognition to uncomfortable pity within seconds. "Jet, what are you doing out here?" Jason's confusion was genuine and painful to witness. "Just helping with the party logistics." I managed forcing a smile that felt like broken glass, cutting my cheeks. Sarah Martinez emerged from her Tesla Model S, her designer dress flowing elegantly as she approached the entrance. We'd graduated business school together, but now she looked through me like I was invisible furniture. The weight of social hierarchy pressed down on my shoulders like concrete blocks. As I walked toward the makeshift parking area behind the pool house, Derek's voice carried across the landscaped gardens. He was entertaining a cluster of guests with animated storytelling, his hands gesturing wildly for dramatic effect. "You wouldn't believe how perfectly everything fell into place," Derek bragged to his captive audience. "Jet thought he was so clever with that little software company of his." I froze behind a marble fountain, my heart hammering against my ribs like a caged animal. Derek's voice grew louder, fueled by champagne and malicious pride. "I spent 6 months feeding information to his competitors." Derek continued, his laughter sharp as breaking glass. "Every product launch, every client meeting, every strategic decision. I had access to everything through his home office computer." The guests murmured with shocked fascination, treating Derek's confession like evening entertainment rather than criminal activity. My hands trembled as the full scope of his betrayal unfolded in real time. The beauty was how easy it became once I convinced Mother that Jet was financially irresponsible. Derek explained with scholarly precision. A few strategic conversations about his spending habits, some forged documents showing imaginary debts, and suddenly Marcus was cutting off all family investment support. My stomach lurched as puzzle pieces clicked into place. The mysterious funding delays, the leaked product specifications, the clients who inexplicably chose competitors at the last minute. Derek had orchestrated my professional destruction with surgical precision. But the investor rumors were my masterpiece, Derek announced to his fascinated audience. I created anonymous tip sheets suggesting Jet's company was facing bankruptcy, and distributed them through financial networks. Amazing how quickly venture capital firms distance themselves when doubt creeps in. The fountain's water feature seemed to mock me with its cheerful bubbling while my world collapsed around me. Everything I'd attributed to bad luck or market forces had been deliberate sabotage by my own family member. Derek's voice took on a professorial tone as he described the technical aspects of his corporate espionage. Email interception was surprisingly simple once I installed monitoring software on his devices. Every partnership proposal, every confidential negotiation, every private investor communication crossed my desk before reaching its intended destination. My phone buzzed with another missed call from my business attorney. How many critical communications had Derek intercepted and deleted? How many opportunities had vanished into his digital black hole of betrayal? The conversation revealed Derek's psychological motivations with disturbing clarity. His jealousy over my early entrepreneurial success had festered into systematic revenge. He'd weaponized family connections to destroy everything I'd built from nothing. The valet assignment tonight was just perfect finishing touch. Derek concluded with artistic satisfaction. Jet parking cars for the same people who used to respect him as an equal? Sometimes life writes its own poetry. Guest laughter echoed across the manicured grounds as I stood hidden behind Italian marble holding car keys in hands that shook with rage and heartbreak. Derek's betrayal cut deeper than any business failure could have managed alone. My phone slipped from my numb fingers, clattering against the decorative stones surrounding the fountain. The sound seemed to announce my presence to the universe, but Derek's audience remained focused on his triumphant storytelling. The weight of systematic deception pressed against my chest like a physical force. Every family dinner where Derek had asked innocent questions about my business plans. Every casual conversation where I'd shared dreams and strategies with someone I trusted completely. All of it had been intelligence gathering for my destruction. As Derek's audience finally dispersed toward the main party, I remained frozen behind the fountain. The polyester vest felt heavier, now weighted down by the knowledge that it represented far more than temporary humiliation. It was the uniform Derek had chosen for my permanent defeat. Marcus appeared beside the fountain like a predatory shadow, his expensive cologne mixing with night air that suddenly felt suffocating. His approach was calculated, designed to appear casual, while maintaining complete control over our interaction. "Difficult evening for you, I imagine." Marcus observed his tone, suggesting sympathy, while his eyes revealed satisfaction. "Derek told me you overheard his conversation with the guests." My throat felt lined with sandpaper as I struggled to form coherent responses. Why would you let him destroy my business? What did I ever do to deserve this? Marcus adjusted his platinum cufflinks with deliberate precision, each movement designed to demonstrate his superior position. His smile carried no warmth, only the cold satisfaction of achieved objectives. "You misunderstood your place in this family from the beginning," Marcus explained with clinical detachment. "I never accepted you as my stepson, and I certainly never intended to treat you as Derek's equal." The confession landed like physical blows. Marcus had spent 5 years pretending to welcome me into his household while secretly planning my destruction. Every birthday gift, every graduation congratulation, every family vacation had been elaborate theater. "Your mother deserves a son she can be proud of." Marcus continued, his voice taking on educational tones. "Derek represents everything this family should embody: intelligence, ambition, loyalty to proper values." My legs felt unsteady as the conversation revealed layers of manipulation I'd never suspected. Marcus hadn't simply enabled Derek's sabotage, he'd orchestrated the entire campaign with military precision. "The bank account freezes were surprisingly easy to arrange," Marcus explained with professional pride. "My connections in the financial industry proved quite helpful when I explained the situation. Young entrepreneurs often overextend themselves, and premature loan calls serve as valuable reality checks." The ground seemed to shift beneath my feet as Marcus detailed his systematic campaign. He'd used his position as a prominent investment banker to blacklist me from potential funding sources. Every pitch meeting that had ended in mysterious rejection, every investor who'd suddenly lost interest despite initial enthusiasm. I forged your mother's signature on the trust fund withdrawal documents, Marcus admitted, without apparent shame. The money your grandfather set aside for your education and business ventures now serves much better purposes in Derek's account. My vision blurred with rage and disbelief. The trust fund had been my safety net, the foundation that allowed me to take entrepreneurial risks. Marcus had stolen my future while I trusted him as family. Your biological father was weak, Marcus declared with contempt. He filled your head with romantic nonsense about building something meaningful through hard work. I prefer teaching practical lessons about power and hierarchy. The mention of my father sent fresh waves of pain through my chest. Marcus knew exactly which emotional buttons to push for maximum psychological damage. He'd studied my vulnerabilities with scientific thoroughness. Barbara believes you simply made poor business decisions, Marcus revealed with obvious satisfaction. She has no idea about our intervention in your affairs. Disappointing children often hide their failures behind elaborate excuses. My phone buzzed insistently, but Marcus gestured for me to ignore it. His control extended even to minor decisions about when I could answer communications. The power dynamic was absolute and humiliating. Your remaining business assets will disappear completely if you cause any disruption tonight, Marcus threatened with quiet intensity. One word to your mother about our conversation, and I'll ensure you lose everything else you still possess. The threat carried weight because Marcus had already demonstrated his ability to destroy my financial foundation. His network of connections could eliminate any remaining opportunities I might have salvaged from the wreckage. I've documented your supposed financial irresponsibility quite thoroughly, Marcus explained with bureaucratic pride. Forged receipts for expensive purchases, fabricated credit card statements, manufactured evidence of gambling debts. Your mother believes you've been living far beyond your means. Each revelation hit like another nail in my professional coffin. Marcus had constructed an elaborate fiction around my character, painting me as reckless and immature. My mother's disappointment suddenly made perfect sense. The beauty of psychological warfare is how it makes victims complicit in their own destruction, Marcus observed with academic fascination. You'll continue parking cars tonight because fighting back would confirm every negative story I've told about your temperament. His analysis was correct and infuriating. Any emotional outburst would validate Marcus's narrative about my instability. He'd created a perfect trap where resistance only strengthened his position. The party music drifted across the gardens, a cheerful soundtrack to my systematic humiliation. Other valets moved efficiently between vehicles, unaware that one of their colleagues was receiving a masterclass in family betrayal. Derek understands how real families operate, Marcus concluded with finality. Loyalty flows upward toward those who provide stability and guidance. Your father filled your head with egalitarian nonsense that doesn't survive contact with reality. Marcus straightened his tie and prepared to rejoin the celebration, leaving me with the wreckage of everything I'd believed about family bonds. His parting smile suggested complete satisfaction with the evening's psychological demolition. Enjoy the rest of your shift, Marcus advised with false pleasantness. Tomorrow we'll discuss your ongoing role in this household's hierarchy. As Marcus disappeared into the crowd of elegant guests, I remained beside the fountain holding car keys that felt heavier than concrete blocks. The polyester vest had become a costume for my permanent humiliation, and the man who'd orchestrated it all was inside toasting my mother's birthday. I found my mother standing alone on the terrace overlooking her prize-winning rose garden. Barbara wore a stunning midnight blue gown that caught moonlight like scattered diamonds. For a moment, she looked exactly like the woman who used to read bedtime stories and bandage scraped knees. "Oh, Mom, we need to talk privately," I said, my voice barely steady enough to form the words. Barbara turned toward me with visible annoyance, her expression suggesting I was interrupting important contemplation. The distance in her eyes felt like a physical barrier between us. "Jet, you're supposed to be working?" she replied coolly. "Guests are waiting for their vehicles and you're not being paid to socialize." The casual cruelty of her response stole my breath. My own mother was treating me like hired help rather than her son. Marcus's manipulation had been even more thorough than I'd realized. Marcus and Derek have been sabotaging my business for months. I explained urgently. They stole from my trust fund, blocked my bank accounts, and leaked confidential information to competitors. Everything that happened to my company was deliberate. Barbara's face hardened with each word, her lips pressing into a thin line of disapproval. Instead of shock or concern, she radiated defensive anger that made no sense given what I was revealing. "Are you seriously trying to blame your failures on your family?" she demanded with increasing volume. Marcus showed me the financial records, Jet. The gambling debts, the expensive purchases, the reckless spending. You destroyed your own business through poor choices. My heart shattered as I realized Marcus's fictional evidence had completely convinced her. The forged documents and manufactured debt records had poisoned her perception beyond any possibility of rational discussion. "All those records are fabricated," I insisted desperately. "Marcus admitted it to me 20 minutes ago. He's been lying to you about everything I've supposedly done wrong." Barbara laughed with bitter harshness that cut through me like broken glass. The sound contained no maternal warmth, only contempt for what she perceived as pathetic excuses. "Do you hear yourself right now?" she asked with theatrical disbelief. "Paranoid conspiracy theories instead of taking responsibility for your actions? This is exactly why Derek has been so concerned about your mental state." The mention of Derek's supposed concern felt like salt in fresh wounds. My half-brother had been playing concerned family member while actively destroying my life from the shadows. Derek confessed to everything in front of the guests. I said, my voice rising with desperation. He bragged about intercepting my emails, feeding information to competitors, and spreading false rumors about my company's financial stability. Barbara's expression shifted to clinical coldness as she studied my face like I was exhibiting symptoms of serious mental illness. Her psychological evaluation felt more painful than any physical blow. "Marcus warned me this might happen," she said with sad resignation. "When people face consequences for their poor decisions, they sometimes develop elaborate fantasies to avoid accepting blame." The revelation that Marcus had predicted and prepared for this exact conversation demonstrated the depth of his psychological manipulation. He'd inoculated my mother against any truth I might reveal. "I know this is difficult to hear," Barbara continued with forced gentleness, "but you need professional help dealing with these delusions. The stories you're telling yourself aren't healthy or realistic." My legs felt weak as I understood the complete scope of my isolation. Marcus hadn't just destroyed my business and finances, he'd systematically eliminated any possibility of family support or understanding. "You're choosing them over your own son," I said the words, feeling torn from my chest. Barbara's face flushed with anger that seemed genuinely righteous from her perspective. She believed she was defending her family against unfair accusations rather than abandoning her child. "I'm choosing reality over fantasy," she declared with conviction. "Marcus provides stability and security that you've never been able to offer. Derek has proven himself responsible and trustworthy in ways you've consistently failed to demonstrate." The comparison between Derek and me felt designed to inflict maximum psychological damage. She was using my love for her as a weapon against my self-worth. "Marcus gives me the life I deserve after years of financial struggle with your father," Barbara explained with growing passion. "Beautiful home, social standing, security for my future. Why would I jeopardize that for someone who can't manage his own basic responsibilities?" Her confession revealed the transactional nature of her current marriage. Marcus had purchased her loyalty with material comfort, making it nearly impossible for her to question his version of events. "If you continue making these ridiculous accusations," Barbara warned with steel in her voice, "I'll have no choice but to cut all contact with you. I won't allow you to poison this family with your paranoid fantasies." The ultimatum felt like a knife twisting in my chest. She was demanding I accept Marcus's lies or lose my mother forever. The choice felt impossible and completely unfair. "You're my son, and I love you," Barbara said with carefully measured emotion. "But love doesn't mean enabling destructive behavior. Sometimes tough choices serve everyone's best interests in the long run." Her version of maternal love felt like emotional abandonment disguised as responsible parenting. She was choosing comfort over truth, security over justice, and appearances over family bonds. "I've already rewritten my will to reflect current family dynamics," Barbara revealed with businesslike precision. "Derek has proven himself worthy of family resources through consistent, responsible behavior." The news about the inheritance changes felt like being buried alive. Even in death, my mother planned to validate Marcus's narrative about my unworthiness compared to Derek's supposed virtue. "Now please return to your duties," Barbara concluded with regal dismissal. "Our guests deserve proper service, and this conversation is accomplishing nothing productive." As she glided back toward the party, her gown rustling like silk-wrapped condemnation, I stood alone on the terrace. The rose garden below seemed to mock me with its perfect beauty, while my family relationships withered into dust. The polyester vest felt like a funeral shroud as I walked back toward the parking area. My mother had chosen financial security over maternal love, and I was completely alone in a crowd of people who viewed me as invisible help. My phone rang insistently as I mechanically guided another luxury vehicle into the designated parking area behind the pool house. The caller ID displayed an unknown number with a Seattle area code, but something about the timing felt significant enough to risk answering. "Is this Jet Thompson?" asked a crisp female voice with professional authority. "Speaking," I replied, glancing around to ensure no guests were within earshot of my conversation. "My name is Amanda Walsh, senior partner at Blackstone Morrison and Associates. I'm calling regarding your biological father's estate settlement. We need to arrange an immediate emergency board meeting tonight. My father had died in a car accident when I was 12 years old. His estate had been tied up in complex legal proceedings for over 15 years, and I'd stopped expecting any resolution to emerge from the bureaucratic maze. I'm sorry, but this really isn't a good time. I began watching Derek signal for another guest's vehicle. Mr. Thompson, you don't understand the gravity of this situation, Amanda interrupted with increasing urgency. The probate court finalized your inheritance this afternoon. You're now the majority shareholder of Meridian Industries, along with several subsidiary corporations and real estate holdings worth approximately $800 million. The phone nearly slipped from my hands as the magnitude of her words registered. $800 million. The number seemed impossible, like something from a dream sequence, rather than reality. That's not possible, I whispered, my voice barely audible above the party music drifting from the main terrace. Your father established multiple shell companies and investment vehicles to protect his assets from potential litigation, Amanda explained rapidly. The inheritance couldn't transfer until you reached 28 years of age, which occurred 6 months ago. We've been waiting for court approval to finalize the transition. 28. My recent birthday had passed without any fanfare, just another reminder of my professional and personal failures. Marcus had made sure the celebration focused on my supposed shortcomings, rather than any milestone achievements. Meridian Industries is a Fortune 500 technology conglomerate. Amanda continued with breathless efficiency. Your father's patents in semiconductor design and artificial intelligence applications have generated substantial revenue streams for over a decade. The irony felt overwhelming. While Derek was sabotaging my small tech startup, I'd unknowingly inherited a massive technology empire that dwarfed his petty schemes. We have credible intelligence that certain parties have been attempting to manipulate your financial situation. Amanda said, her voice taking on protective tones. Someone with inside knowledge has been working to destabilize your personal assets before this inheritance became available. Marcus. The pieces clicked together with devastating clarity. His systematic destruction of my business hadn't been random cruelty. It had been a calculated attempt to maintain control before my father's wealth shifted the family power dynamic permanently. I'm currently handling valet parking at my mother's birthday party. I explained the absurdity of the situation hitting me fully. Sir, you're the chief executive officer of a major corporation, Amanda replied with gentle firmness. Your board of directors is waiting for your signature on transfer documents that will activate your voting control and financial access. The transformation from valet to CEO felt like something from a surreal fever dream. Hours earlier, I'd been parking cars and enduring family humiliation. Now I was apparently responsible for hundreds of millions in corporate assets. How quickly can you reach Bellingham Regional Airport? Amanda asked with military precision. Your corporate jet should be landing within the next 30 minutes. My corporate jet. The phrase felt foreign and impossible. This morning I'd worried about affording gas for my 10-year-old Honda Civic. Tonight I apparently owned aircraft capable of international travel. I don't understand how this is possible. I admitted my mind struggling to process the complete reversal of my circumstances. Your father was brilliant at protecting assets through complex legal structures, Amanda explained patiently. He suspected someone might try to manipulate you before the inheritance matured, so he built multiple safeguards into the trust arrangements. The conversation revealed my father's posthumous protection spanning 16 years. Even in death, he'd been shielding me from the exact scenario Marcus had orchestrated. The board meeting is mandatory tonight because we've detected attempted fraud related to your personal accounts, Amanda warned urgently. Someone has been forging documents and accessing funds that legally belong to you. We need your authorization to pursue criminal charges. Marcus and Derek's crimes suddenly carried federal implications. Their petty family betrayal had escalated into securities fraud and identity theft on a massive scale. Can this wait until tomorrow? I asked, watching another guest approach with car keys. Absolutely not, Amanda replied with legal authority. Every hour we delay gives the perpetrators more time to cover their tracks and dispose of evidence. Your signature tonight will freeze their assets and trigger FBI investigation protocols. The mention of federal law enforcement sent adrenaline coursing through my system. Derek's bragging about corporate espionage wasn't just family drama. It was criminal activity that would attract serious legal consequences. Your jet should be visible any moment now, Amanda said, her voice carrying across what sounded like wind interference. I'm already en route to the airport with your legal team and financial advisors. As if summoned by her words, a distinctive aircraft sound began building in the distance. The low rumble of powerful engines approached from the east, growing louder with each passing second. That's impossible, I breathed, looking toward the regional airport visible beyond the estate's boundaries. Welcome to your new reality, Mr. Thompson, Amanda said with satisfaction. Your father built an empire, and it's time for you to claim your inheritance. The Gulfstream G650 appeared like a silver bullet against the darkening sky, its landing lights cutting through twilight as it approached Bellingham Regional Airport. The aircraft's sleek profile commanded attention from every guest on the terrace, conversation stopping mid-sentence as people pointed toward the approaching jet. Meridian Industries stood out in bold lettering along the fuselage, clearly visible even from our distance. The corporate logo beneath the company name matched designs I'd seen on technology products throughout my adult life, though I'd never connected them to my father's work. Derek appeared beside me with obvious confusion, his earlier confidence wavering as the jet touched down with professional precision. The sound of powerful engines reversing thrust echoed across the estate grounds like an announcement of changed circumstances. But what kind of corporate jet makes emergency landings at regional airports? Derek asked nervously, his voice lacking its usual commanding tone. Before I could respond, a black Mercedes sedan pulled through the estate gates with purposeful urgency. The vehicle moved with official authority that suggested important passengers rather than additional party guests. Amanda Walsh emerged from the passenger side wearing an impeccably size-tailored charcoal business suit that cost more than most people's monthly salaries. Her confident stride and professional bearing commanded immediate respect from everyone within visual range. Jet Thompson, she called across the parking area with crisp authority. "That's me," I replied, my voice sounding strange in my own ears. "Amanda Walsh, your chief legal counsel," she announced loudly enough for nearby guests to overhear completely. "I apologize for the dramatic arrival, but our board of directors couldn't delay this emergency meeting any longer." Derek's face drained of color as Amanda's words registered with devastating clarity. His earlier triumph over my valet assignment suddenly seemed pathetic compared to corporate jets and legal teams. "Sir, we need your signature on inheritance transfer documents worth approximately $800 million, Amanda continued with professional efficiency. Meridian Industries has been waiting 16 years for this transition of leadership. Marcus materialized from the crowd of stunned guests, his usual composure cracking as he processed Amanda's public announcement. The man who'd spent the evening orchestrating my humiliation now faced evidence of massive miscalculation. "There must be some mistake," Marcus interjected with forced authority. "Jet doesn't have any significant business connections or family wealth." Amanda smiled with the confidence of someone holding superior legal position. She opened her leather briefcase and withdrew authenticated documents bearing official court seals and corporate letterheads. "My name, Sir Thompson, inherited controlling interest in a Fortune 500 technology conglomerate this afternoon," Amanda explained to the gathering crowd. "His father's estate has finally cleared probate after extensive legal proceedings." The same guests who'd watched me park their vehicles now realized they'd been in the presence of one of the youngest billionaires in America. Their expressions shifted from condescending pity to shocked recognition within seconds. Barbara pushed through the crowd with visible confusion, her elegant gown rustling as she approached our impromptu legal conference. Her face reflected genuine bewilderment rather than any previous knowledge of this inheritance. "Jet, what's happening here?" she asked with maternal concern that had been absent from our earlier conversation. "Your son just became CEO of multiple corporations," Amanda replied before I could speak. "His biological father established extensive business ventures that have been generating substantial profits for over a decade." Derek stumbled backward as the full implications hit him with crushing force. His systematic sabotage of my small startup seemed ridiculous compared to the corporate empire I'd unknowingly inherited. "This is impossible," Derek whispered, his voice barely audible above the murmur of fascinated guests. Amanda produced her tablet and displayed financial statements showing revenue streams, stock holdings, and real estate portfolios that stretched across multiple pages. The numbers seemed to dance before my eyes as reality shifted around me. Meridian Industries owns patents for semiconductor technology that powers most modern smartphones and computers, Amanda explained to the captivated audience. Mr. Thompson's father was a visionary who built sustainable competitive advantages in emerging markets. My father had been more than the struggling entrepreneur I remembered from childhood. He'd been building technological foundations that would reshape entire industries while protecting his family's future through sophisticated legal structures. "We've detected fraudulent activity targeting Mr. Thompson's personal accounts," Amanda announced with ominous undertones. "Someone has been systematically attempting to drain his resources and damage his business reputation before this inheritance became available." Marcus's face went ashen as Amanda's investigation capabilities became apparent. His careful schemes suddenly carried potential criminal liability rather than just family consequences. The champagne glass in Derek's hand slipped from his numb fingers, shattering against the decorative stonework with a crash that echoed across the suddenly silent gathering. The sound seemed to punctuate the complete reversal of our family's power structure. "Mr. Thompson, we need to depart immediately," Amanda urged with professional intensity. "Your board is waiting, and time-sensitive decisions require your immediate attention." I looked down at the ridiculous polyester vest that had symbolized my humiliation just moments earlier. The cheap fabric felt absurd against my skin, as corporate lawyers and financial advisors treated me with the respect accorded to major business leaders. "Give me one moment," I said, beginning to remove the vest that Marcus had forced me to wear. The polyester came off like a snake, shedding its skin, revealing the simple dress shirt underneath. As the vest fell to the ground, I felt my confidence returning like water filling an empty reservoir. "Ladies and gentlemen," I addressed the stunned crowd with newfound authority. "Thank you for attending my mother's birthday celebration. I apologize for any confusion regarding tonight's unexpected developments." The transformation from valet to CEO felt natural despite its impossibility. My father's blood carried instincts for leadership that years of Marcus's manipulation hadn't been able to completely suppress. Amanda smiled with obvious approval as she witnessed my emergence from imposed subservience. Her legal team had arrived to restore justice, but I needed to reclaim my own dignity through personal choice. "The corporate helicopter will transport us to the jet," Amanda informed me with military precision. "Your new reality begins the moment we lift off." Amanda handed me a titanium tablet displaying evidence that made my blood run cold. Photographs of forged documents, recorded phone conversations, and financial transactions painted a comprehensive picture of systematic fraud spanning several months. "Your security team has been investigating suspicious activity since March," Amanda explained with prosecutorial precision. "We suspected someone with inside access was manipulating your accounts and business relationships. The evidence included screenshots of Derek's computer showing my intercepted emails, bank records proving Marcus had stolen from my trust fund, and recorded conversations where both men discussed their schemes with casual arrogance. This goes far beyond family betrayal," Amanda continued grimly. "Wire fraud, identity theft, securities, manipulation, and conspiracy charges will likely result in significant federal prison sentences." Marcus stepped forward with obvious desperation, his earlier confidence completely evaporated. "Now wait just 1 minute. Any family disputes can be resolved through private mediation without involving law enforcement." Amanda fixed him with a stare that could have frozen molten steel. "Mr. Caldwell, you've committed multiple felonies against a corporate officer. This stopped being a family matter when you forged legal documents and stole federally protected trust funds." Derek's face had gone completely white as he realized the scope of his legal exposure. Corporate espionage carried mandatory minimum sentences that would destroy any hope of normal life after conviction. "I didn't know about the inheritance," Derek stammered desperately. "Everything I did was just sibling rivalry, not corporate crime." "Ignorance of your victim's financial status doesn't diminish criminal liability," Amanda replied with legal authority. "Corporate espionage is a federal offense regardless of the target's net worth." My phone buzzed with incoming calls as news of my identity began spreading through business networks. The same investors who'd rejected my proposals based on Derek's sabotage were suddenly eager to discuss partnership opportunities. "We've been building this case with FBI cooperation for over 2 months," Amanda revealed with satisfaction. "Your half-brothers bragging about criminal activity provided excellent recorded evidence for prosecution." The irony was perfect. Derek's need to boast about his schemes had created the evidence necessary for his own conviction. His arrogance had become the instrument of his destruction. "Federal agents are en route to serve arrest warrants," Amanda announced to the horrified crowd. Multiple charges will be filed against both Mr. Caldwell and Mr. Morrison for organized criminal activity. Barbara gasped with genuine shock as she realized the full scope of her husband's deception. The man she'd trusted with her financial security had been conducting federal crimes while manipulating her perceptions of her own son. "Marcus, what have you done?" Barbara whispered with growing horror. "I protected this family from making poor financial decisions." Marcus replied weakly, his earlier authority completely gone. "You stole from my son and destroyed his business through criminal conspiracy," Barbara corrected with rising anger. "Everything you told me about Jet's failures was lies designed to cover your own crimes." The revelation hit Barbara like physical force. Her defensive anger toward me had been based on fabricated evidence created by her criminal husband. The guilt in her eyes was overwhelming to witness. "Well, ma'am, your husband has been systematically defrauding multiple victims for several years," Amanda informed Barbara gently. "Your son was simply his most recent target because of the pending inheritance." Other party guests began stepping forward with their own stories of Marcus's financial manipulation. His schemes apparently extended far beyond our family into broader investment fraud affecting dozens of victims. "I lost my retirement savings to his fake investment opportunities," admitted elderly neighbor Mrs. Patterson. "He seemed so trustworthy and professional." "My small business loan application was rejected because of negative references he provided," added local restaurant owner Mike Rodriguez. "I never understood why he'd sabotage someone he barely knew." The pattern of victimization painted Marcus as a serial predator who used his reputation and social connections to identify and exploit vulnerable targets. Our family drama was just one chapter in a much larger criminal enterprise. Derek collapsed into a patio chair as the weight of incoming legal consequences crushed his remaining composure. "I just wanted to prove I was better than him," he sobbed with pathetic desperation. "Your jealousy doesn't justify federal crimes," Amanda replied without sympathy. "Corporate espionage has destroyed companies and cost thousands of people their jobs. The legal system treats these offenses very seriously." Red and blue lights began flashing beyond the estate gates as law enforcement arrived to execute the arrest warrants. The festive party atmosphere transformed into a crime scene with dramatic suddenness. "Mr. Thompson, we need to depart before the media circus begins," Amanda urged with protective concern. "Your security team is prepared to handle the investigative process while you attend to corporate responsibilities." I looked around at the guests who treated me like invisible help throughout the evening. Their expressions ranged from shock to embarrassment as they realized their casual condescension had been directed towards someone who could buy and sell most of their businesses without financial strain. "Justice will be served," I announced to the gathered crowd with quiet authority. But tonight's focus should return to celebrating my mother's birthday, despite these unfortunate revelations. The grace in my response seemed to surprise everyone, including myself. My father's genes apparently included instincts for dignified leadership, even under extraordinary circumstances. "Amanda, let's proceed to the corporate meeting." I decided with newfound confidence. These legal matters will resolve themselves through proper channels. As federal agents entered the estate grounds, I walked toward the waiting Mercedes with my head held high. The valet vest lay abandoned on decorative stones, a symbol of imposed humiliation that would never define me again. 6 months later, I stood in the kitchen of my new estate preparing coffee for my mother's genuine birthday celebration. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Puget Sound, illuminating a space designed for comfort rather than intimidation. Barbara entered wearing a simple blue dress instead of the designer gowns Marcus had insisted she display at social functions. Her natural beauty shone brighter without the artificial trappings of wealth that had once defined her identity. "The catering staff will arrive at 2 o'clock, she informed me with quiet efficiency. "I've confirmed attendance for 28 guests, all people who matter because of friendship rather than social status. My mother's transformation had been remarkable to witness. Divorcing Marcus and returning his stolen funds to victims had freed her from years of complicity in his criminal schemes. She'd discovered genuine purpose through helping other families recover from financial fraud. The scholarship recipients are excited to meet you, Barbara continued with obvious pride. 3 young entrepreneurs whose families experienced betrayal similar to ours. Your foundation gave them hope when everything seemed impossible. The Thompson Family Foundation had become my most meaningful business venture. We provided funding and mentorship for entrepreneurs whose family members had sabotaged their early efforts through jealousy or manipulation. Derek called again this morning. Barbara mentioned carefully gauging my reaction to news about my half-brother. Derek was serving 3 years in federal prison for corporate espionage and identity theft. His comfortable lifestyle had been replaced by orange jumpsuits and shared dormitory space with other white-collar criminals. What did he say? I asked, genuinely curious about his perspective after months of incarceration. He's been working in the prison library, helping other inmates prepare appeals and legal documents, Barbara explained with tentative optimism. Derek says the experience taught him how his actions affected real people rather than abstract business concepts. Prison had apparently forced Derek to confront the human cost of his schemes. Surrounded by victims of financial crime, he'd developed empathy for people he'd previously viewed as obstacles to his advancement. He wants to apologize in person when his sentence ends, Barbara added softly. Derek realizes his jealousy caused tremendous damage to innocent people. Forgiveness felt possible, but not guaranteed. Derek's acknowledgement of wrongdoing was encouraging, but rebuilding trust would require consistent demonstration of changed character over time. We'll evaluate that possibility when it becomes relevant, I decided diplomatically. Marcus had received 15 years in federal prison for organized fraud affecting over 60 families. His sophisticated schemes had destroyed retirement funds, college savings, and small business dreams across 3 states. The sentence reflected both his crimes and his complete lack of remorse during trial proceedings. Amanda Walsh appeared in the doorway wearing casual clothes that made her seem more approachable than the corporate lawyer who'd rescued me from valet duty. She'd become my most trusted advisor for both business decisions and personal relationships. The Seattle Times wants to interview you about ethical leadership in technology industries, Amanda informed me with professional precision. Your story about overcoming family betrayal has inspired other entrepreneurs facing similar challenges. My experience had become a case study in business schools across the country. Students analyzed how systematic sabotage could destroy promising companies while discussing prevention strategies and legal remedies. Schedule it for next week. I agreed. Public awareness might help other people recognize manipulation before it destroys their opportunities. The doorbell chimed with the first arrival of party guests. Unlike the intimidating social climbers who'd attended Marcus's manufactured celebrations, today's visitors were people who'd earned their place through character rather than bank balances. Jason Martinez entered with his wife and 2 children, their laughter filling the kitchen with genuine warmth. He'd become a close friend again after learning about Derek's manipulation of our relationship. Yo, gross sense. Jet, the kids are excited to see your game room, Jason announced with parental pride. They've been practicing billiards all week hoping to beat you. They're improving rapidly, I replied with honest appreciation. Sarah nearly won our last tournament. Building relationships based on mutual respect rather than business advantage had become one of my greatest pleasures. Success felt meaningless without people to share genuine experiences beyond corporate achievement. Sarah Chen arrived carrying homemade desserts that smelled like childhood comfort food. She'd apologized profusely for treating me coldly during my valet assignment, though I'd assured her that Marcus's manipulation had been designed to create exactly those reactions. My startup received funding approval yesterday, Sarah announced with glowing excitement. The investor group said your recommendation letter made the difference in their decision. Supporting other entrepreneurs had become my favorite use of inherited influence. Helping people achieve their dreams felt more satisfying than any corporate acquisition or financial milestone. The party grew naturally as friends arrived with stories about their families, businesses, and personal goals. Conversation flowed around shared interests rather than networking opportunities or social positioning. Barbara moved through the gathering with obvious contentment, hosting people she genuinely cared about instead of performing for Marcus's business associates. Her laughter sounded natural for the first time in years. "Mom seems happy," Amanda observed quietly watching Barbara help children with craft projects at the kitchen island. "She's rediscovered herself outside of Marcus's influence." I agreed. Working with fraud victims gave her purpose beyond social appearances. The foundation had provided Barbara with meaningful work that utilized her organizational skills while serving people who'd experienced similar betrayal. She'd become an advocate for financial crime victims, testifying at congressional hearings about the psychological damage caused by systematic deception. "Your father would be proud," Amanda said with sincere emotion. "You've used his legacy to help people rebuild their lives after experiencing what you survived." My father's posthumous protection had extended far beyond personal inheritance. His vision included creating systems that would support other entrepreneurs facing family sabotage or corporate betrayal. As afternoon sunlight painted golden patterns across the kitchen floor, I reflected on the extraordinary journey from valet vest to corporate leadership. The experience had taught me that true strength emerges from surviving betrayal while maintaining integrity. Life has taught me that sometimes the people who try to diminish you actually reveal your hidden strengths, I said to the gathered friends and family. The lowest moments often become foundations for the highest achievements. Barbara raised her coffee cup in an impromptu toast to second chances and the courage to rebuild after betrayal. To justice served and family healed, Amanda added with legal precision. To friendship that survives misunderstanding, Sarah contributed with emotional warmth. As our voices joined in agreement, I realized that Marcus's schemes had ultimately failed completely. His attempt to destroy my future had instead revealed resources and relationships that made me stronger than I'd ever imagined possible. The valet vest now resided in my office as a reminder that dignity comes from within rather than external circumstances. No amount of manipulation could permanently diminish someone determined to fight for truth and justice. Derek's prison term would end eventually, and we'd face the challenge of rebuilding our relationship based on honesty rather than competition. Barbara had chosen family over financial security, proving that love could overcome years of manipulation. Amanda's legal expertise had become the foundation for helping other victims pursue justice against financial predators. Her commitment to ethical practice inspired everyone around her to maintain high standards. The Thompson Family Foundation would continue growing, providing resources for entrepreneurs whose families had tried to destroy their dreams through jealousy or control. Every success story validated my father's belief in protecting future generations. As the celebration continued around me, I understood that real victory meant transforming painful experiences into opportunities to help others. Marcus and Derek's betrayal had become the catalyst for building something meaningful from the wreckage of broken trust. The kitchen filled with laughter and conversation as people who genuinely cared about each other shared food stories and dreams for the future. This was what family should feel like and what business success should enable. Looking out at Puget Sound through windows that framed natural beauty rather than artificial status, I felt grateful for the journey that had brought me to this moment of peace and purpose. Now I want to ask you something important. Have you ever faced betrayal from people you trusted most? And how did you find the strength to rebuild your life afterward? Your experiences might inspire others who are struggling with similar challenges. Thank you for joining me on this journey of justice and redemption. If this story resonated with you, please leave a comment. Sharing your thoughts, hit the like button, To support more content like this, subscribe for future stories about overcoming adversity, and share this with someone who might need to hear that betrayal doesn't define your future. Remember, your lowest moments often become the foundation for your greatest triumphs.